assuming that was the movie that we were going to watch in the introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonas Klevhag, and I'm the moderator of this session. Not just a session, actually, but a super session, as you have already seen. It's not an ordinary session. It's not even an ordinary super session, I would call it, and we actually waited 5 more minutes to make it a super duper session. If you look around, you're quite a few people who have dared to come here this morning. How do you feel? Good? Do you feel healthy? Healthy and energized and interested in digital health? Then you've come to the right place. Do you feel digitally healthy? Anyone? Very good. But room for improvement, definitely. So this session will be on digital health, and the long title is Cross-Fertilization Between Pharma and Health Tech Startups. Where will it take us? I have the honor to host this session, and with me I have almost everyone now. But we have Annika Holmberg from BMS, the Public Affairs Manager from BMS. We have Jay Delia as Director of Business Development of BMS as well. We have Nils Gröning from SAS, Mattias Paulsson from Koala Life, Philip Seberg from Lytix. We have Philip Seberg, CEO of Koala Life. And Anthony Sygrest, Director of Patient Innovation from AbbVie, Chicago. And last but not least, Marianne Larsson, Director of Innovation at Health Tech Nordic. What do you say? Give them a hand, please. A big hand. And a warm welcome. So the big question is, we have here both large and small companies represented. The big question is, can we speed up development of digitalization in life science by bringing small and big companies together? I think we have a good chance of finding that out during these 75 minutes. But to help us on the way, we will listen to a few presentations, starting off with Annika Holmberg from BMS.
Yep.
The floor is yours.
Thank
a warm
you so
hand.
much. So, yep, it seems like this is on now. So, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to kick this super session off. And I will talk about BMS shortly, but mostly about an innovation race that we arranged together with AbbVie, Microsoft, and Akademiska Hospital in Uppsala just before Christmas last year. But just to give you a short introduction first about who I am and which company I represent, I want to give this background. My name is Annika Holmberg, and I am Public Affairs Lead for Bristol Myers Squibb in the Nordics. So, yeah, it works. Our mission at BMS is to discover, develop, and deliver innovative medicine. And of course, the vision or mission with this is to help patients prevail over serious diseases. And to do this, we need speed, we need innovation, we need passion, we need accountability, but we also need collaboration. So that's why I'm so happy to see so many people in the room, because we are very open to discuss collaboration and to find new possibilities to work together with people in pharma, but also outside of pharma companies. And our mindset is that innovation comes from everyone. So I'm so happy to have a chance to present the innovation race. First of all, Bristol Myers Squibb, or as we say, BMS, is a big biopharma company. We have our headquarters in New York City. We have a net sale, as you can see, close to 20 billion in revenue, and we reinvest nearly 25% of this in R&D. Since 2011, we have bring 11 new medicines to the markets. We have more than 50 compounds in development right now. So I will say that we have a very strong focus on patients and innovation. We are around 200 person in the Nordics, 25,000 globally, and of this 200 in the Nordics, we are around 100 in Stockholm, which is the main office in the Nordics. And I'm also based in Stockholm, but I was born in Lund, so this is very nice to be back here today. BMS in Sweden, we have our office just outside of Stockholm, in Solna, close to the new Karolinska Hospital. We have patients in focus in everything we do. We will soon kick off a campaign internally who has the title "Who do you work for?" or "Who are you working for?", which aims to let us remind that we are every day going to work to support the patients. We have lots of examples here, but as I mentioned, we have 11 new medicines, and we have a big focus on high unmet need. I will talk more about innovation, so I jump that right now, and then we have the R&D focus. And we have a very rich pipeline with 21 compounds just in IO. But we also work very much within other areas, and our main areas, therapeutic areas, is oncology, cardiovascular, immunoscience, and fibrotic diseases. And if we check a little bit more on partnership and collaboration and innovation, what do we do there? We have a long-term partnership with H2 Health Hub, and I have seen companies in this room who's also with us in this partnership. We have started a cancer moonshot project in Sweden together with the government and the US Embassy to discuss how can we together, collaboration across healthcare, pharma companies, other companies, make a good solution for the patients in Sweden who is affected of any kind of cancer. We are part of a big All Can initiative, and in Sweden we have decided to start a cancer commission. And the thing that I'm here to speak about today is the 52-hour innovation race that we had in Uppsala last year. We started 19th of December, so it was just before Christmas. We had this innovation race, 52 hours, together with AbbVie, Microsoft, and Uppsala Akademiska Hospital, and it resulted in 52 hours, this collaboration across functions, across companies, across specialties. It resulted in 10 solutions in real problems for patients with cancer in Sweden today. So this is a little bit blurry picture, but I think the event was a little bit blurry in the beginning. We were hosted at a hotel close to Uppsala. We were there to kick off this meeting on Monday morning. People from 2 big biopharma companies, AbbVie and BMS, the tech company, and healthcare professionals. We sit in this big room. We had a leader from a special company calling Innovation Plant who helped us with this process. In the beginning, we had not that much information. We couldn't read anything before. We couldn't prepare. The most important was to go there with an open mindset, to bring all the expertises and knowledge and that we had in our background, so to say, and be in this room to kick off a 52-hour race together. We had the possibility to sleep there, but we didn't sleep that much during these days. We had, of course, food all the time. But out of that, we were into 3 rooms to discuss different problems and find solutions for patients with cancer in Sweden. So the first thing we did was to make 2 creative groups. And each group were 4 healthcare professionals, 1 or 2 people from BMS and 1 people from AbbVie. one from Microsoft, and then we had a professional process leader from this innovation plant, and we had one industrial designer who could illustrate every idea that was brought up during these discussions. And we also had a lung cancer patient who visited the room and gave her very personal story about how it is to live with cancer today in Sweden. We didn't decide which kind of tumor types we want to focus on. That was the doctors at Uppsala Hospital who decided that lung cancer and head and neck cancer is the two tumor types there they can see the biggest need of new innovation and unmet need within support and care for patients. So we decided to focus on those two tumor types. So one creative group were in that room to discuss lung cancer, and one group worked with head and neck cancer. Outside this room, we had a back office team. There was around 35 persons across the companies working together to answer questions, do research, find the answers that was sent out from the creative groups to us. So, and that could be everything. And that was, I will say, mostly things that you couldn't just Google and check in fact sheets. It was more like, can you contact the patient organization to understand how the patients feels when they are diagnosed? Or can you contact the hospital in Germany to see how they tackle this problem? Things like that. And the back office registered every question we got. And that is what you can see in the picture down. We had a long white wall where we had every question and the answer we sent back to the creative group again. And after 52 hours, I'm a little bit selfish. I just used the BMS picture here in the left corner. Or maybe it's right corner for you. But after 52 hours, honestly, I couldn't see any difference between the companies and the healthcare professionals. We were like one big team working together. But we need to have a picture for our newsletter, so that's why you just see BMS people in that corner. But in 52 hours, we were able to have 10 new solutions, 10 project ideas that could help people with cancer in different ways. We had 5 in lung cancer and 5 within head and neck cancer. And we were brave enough to invite them to a presentation after 52 hours. And we didn't know when we start if we should have any idea. And there was nothing like you need to bring 5 new ideas within each area. So that was just an open space when we started. But remember, 52 hours and we could find 10 new results through collaboration across the companies that solve real problems for patients today.
Annika?
Yeah? Sorry.
Up.
I will summarize this. So, as I said, 10 projects, and of those 10 projects, 7 out of them were within the digital space. We have now selected 3 pilots, which we will try to implement within 52 weeks. So that means like before Christmas, we want those to have been implemented or at least been realized in a more visual way. And that is a VIP project, and that is a virtual information patient platform for patients with head and neck, where they can see each step of the treatment plan we have while you're waiting, and that is an app to bridging the gap between the primary care and the specialty care. When you're waiting for, you have suspicious that you're suspected that you have a cancer diagnosis, but you're not sure, you're under-diagnosed. And then we have and that is for lung cancer patients right now, but I mean, as you can hear, that could be for every diagnosis, I guess. And then we have the multidisciplinary tool, and that is for to have a tool for different healthcare professionals to come together and share data and speed up the process, so to say. And very important, the patient was at the center of every project. That was the patient's need that leading us through these discussions. It was a great collaboration and partnership, and a commitment from all parties to execute the projects. And we now have a steering committee, and we will meet next week to discuss the next step. So thank you so much for listening.
Annika.
And
A warm
please
hand.
give me questions later if you have.
Yes, we will save the questions for later. I think we're running a bit late, but just curious, you mentioned the cancer moonshot.
Sorry.
So please,
Okay.
you mentioned you have a cancer moonshot. How do you write the moonshot? What is the moonshot?
So that is not the cancer moonshot for BMS. That is a cancer moonshot that has been started in the US, that we have supported in the US, and we want to have something in Sweden connected to the cancer moonshot in US. So that's why we have started to have, today we have had 3 roundtables with people across different specialties to discuss how can we together bring benefit for patients in Sweden.
So the moonshot itself, is it curing cancer?
Yeah.
Period.
Cure or better quality of life, or to meet the need that
Thank you very
patients
much.
have.
Yeah. Very interesting. An example of big companies working together. We will talk more about that as well. But now I will leave the floor to Anthony Segrest from AbbVie Chicago, fairly new on the position as Director of Patient Innovation. We're very, very eager to hear your experiences, also coming from the fintech sector and bringing some experiences in from there. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
And a warm hand for Anthony.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to this conference. I'm Anthony Segrest. I'm Head of Patient Innovation for AbbVie. Right now, we're in an exciting time within healthcare itself. As we look to kind of what our patients' expectations are raising their expectations because they're really living in a digital world. So if we look to other industries, as my introduction said, I'm actually from banking and financial services is my background, but really focusing in on what that consumer experience is. So since joining AbbVie, we're really focusing in on what are our patients' needs, where do we want to take that, how do we connect it in, and really make it a centric user point of view. So if we looked at fintech, a few years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, banks and financial institutions actually went through an evolution to really rethink about how they approach their consumers. The same thing happened within retail. So if you think about the Amazons, the other big box stores that are going online, the one core thing to their entire message is around the customer. The customer is the center person. So this is going to be true for healthcare too, as we move forward and kind of engaging our patients. So one of the things that I would say is that we do need to adopt a digital health faster, and that's kind of the whole purpose of this particular meeting. Nearly every part of our lives today has something to do with digital. So from work, we're all, even just in the conference, we're checking our emails, doing different things from work. Also with our friendship and our friends and families through social media. The same thing is going to be true for healthcare. But one of the most important parts of our lives is health, and I feel that it is lagging behind. We are doing the right things within healthcare as an industry to move forward, but if we take kind of cues and some of the lessons learned from other industries that have already gone through this digital evolution, I think we can move a little faster. Digital health will reimagine the way patients consume healthcare in the future. That's a very what's the word I'm looking for? A very insightful kind of way of thinking about healthcare. If we think about how patients today engage and interact digitally, this will also change the way that and their expectations around how they will engage with healthcare. Companies both inside and outside of traditional life sciences are already beginning to embrace digital. With that, it is looking at new business models. How do they operate? How do they collaborate? And so on. So from a healthcare point of view, it really does require us to have a different perspective. It's an outside in. We have always been in healthcare a patient-centric, depending upon which area of healthcare you're in, a patient-centric point of view, but it really means something different from a digital point of view. You have to really understand what the needs are of the customer, the patient, in order to move forward. So what is this going to do? This is going to require change. It's going to require change from a healthcare culture. It's going to also require change in some of our regulatory environments. We already see the FDA and the EMA looking at digital differently, and how do we engage that? The other piece is around our skill sets. So within pharma, within healthcare and other places, we really have to think about digital differently. Do we have the right skill sets? Do we need to build those skill sets? And the last one is we're going to have to change some of our strategies. All of these things I mentioned are not easy to do. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of thought and process to do that. But one of the things that I would say there's three concepts that are core to any kind of digital movement or digital evolution. They are opportunity, collaboration, and partnership. So the first one is really around opportunity, and it's identifying those opportunities where we can create meaningful solutions. And this could be partnering with startups, this could be partnering with big tech, it could be partnering with other pharmaceutical companies or healthcare institutions. So really it's identifying those opportunities. The second one is really around collaboration. Collaboration is really coming together, healthcare and technology, and co-creating requirements for a particular solution that may be there, or may be needed. So it may be trying to fulfill an unmet need from a patient's point of view. It may be trying to fill a clinical need, but really it's trying to co-create those requirements. The next piece is around partnership between healthcares and startups to provide digital health and to build those capabilities as we move forward within the industry itself, and to provide those viable digital products for our partners, for our patients. The first point I will make is around startups. After joining both in the financial sector and also now in healthcare, that's one of my primary things, and one of the things I love to do is meet with startups, meet with incubation shops, other organizations that are thinking about technology in different ways. So one of the things I will say is that startups, a lot of them have very good ideas, very solid ideas, but a lot of times they may need a major healthcare partner or a major stakeholder in order to prove that out. Great ideas around new products and services begins with that unmet need. So a lot of times startups, they will have a need. These needs come from a lot of different places. They can come from a patient, from a caregiver, they can come from a physician, and even a nurse that's trying to solve a problem. So from a software point of view and a startup point of view, it's really how do you connect and open up these opportunities where we can get to collaboration and can get to partnership. So one of the examples that I will use here is out of Israel. There were two brothers. Their father was a diabetic, and he had taken his insulin in the morning, but later in the afternoon he didn't remember if he had taken his medicine, so he actually injected himself again. It caused kind of a health scare for the family. They rushed him off to the ER. He eventually was fine, but one of the things that the brothers said is, we don't want this to happen to us, to our family, or to anyone else. So that was the need. They were like, that's the problem we want to solve. So they formed an organization, and basically it's called MetaSafe. Many of you may know it. But MetaSafe, one of the things that they do, and they do very well, and they have millions of users using their platform right now, is really around joining in and looking for those opportunities. They had that initial piece, but now they're partnering with a lot larger healthcare organizations and different stakeholders to continue to expand and look for new opportunities for patients. The second point is collaborations between startup and pharma. It's very important to deliver the right digital health solution quickly. Creating digital health capabilities can accelerate ideas, but it's a process. You have to think about the entire process as you move through it. I am a very process-driven individual. I look at things very methodically as you move through those. But one of the things that I would say is that the collaboration will bring together the right experts. So again, if you're thinking about a startup who is laser focused on a particular idea or solution or need that they want to solve, and partnering with larger or collaborating with other organizations that may have different types of expertise. So one of the things that I hear a lot when talking with partnerships is that they may not, or with startups, is they may not have in-house expertise around how to take things to clinical trials. They may not truly have the big scope of how to run something through a regulatory agency, but that's where the collaboration here comes together. If you can partner with an organization that has already gone through that, or maybe already have that in-house, you can move things quickly through the system. The example that I'll use in this particular one around collaboration is, and again, both of these organizations are established. It's Medtronic and IBM. So Medtronic, they're a maker of medical devices, specifically around diabetes, and they collaborated with IBM to really look at what are some things we're doing. Medtronic, their devices was already capturing data, looking at what the data is, but then they brought in IBM Watson to really look at and analyze that data. So you have the power of kind of IBM's artificial intelligence, their analysis arm, coming together with an organization that has a very solid device to collect. So with that, both of them coming together, they're able to act quickly and go a lot deeper into solving patient needs or unmet needs that may be there from a clinical point of view. The third point is really around healthcare companies. They have great products, but as we move into this next phase of kind of digital evolution within healthcare and bringing digital health out, it really requires partnerships. And these partnerships will bring the organizations together so that they can look for those opportunities. It's really, from a partnership point of view, it has to be mutual. That's just the norm. But at the same time, it's talking about how do you expand the digital capabilities of both groups together. So if you're looking at a startup or technology company, they have a core set of capabilities, a core set of strengths that they use. Healthcare, we have our core, but together you can actually go further down the path in a more quicker way. The next slide is really around kind of the three core pieces, which are creating those mutual opportunities between digital health startups and creating that acceleration through digital health. Number two is, again, collaboration between pharma, startups, technology companies, providing the better digital health solutions to the patients faster. And then lastly, healthcare organizations must partner with digital health to expand their capabilities. So aligning both the channels of collaboration, looking for those opportunities, seeking those opportunities out, creating partnerships to drive digital capabilities, all of these things coming together, it's kind of a formula that has to come together in order to drive better solutions for patients. I use this quote from Mother Teresa quite a bit. It's really around partnership and how you can partner. What she said was, you can do things that I cannot do. I can do things what you cannot do, but together we can do great things. This is truly kind of a true kind of a mantra around how great partnerships go together. If you're looking at how we can open up those opportunities, how we can collaborate, how we build partnerships, all of those things come together for to advance digital health, to make it faster, to go faster, but also to kind of prove and build out the ground around digital health itself. So at ADV, one of the things that we strive every day to do is to make a remarkable impact on our patients' lives. Digital health, we believe this is going to be one of our core fundamentals of our business. Of course, science is always number one, but if we're looking at kind of where we need to go, it's really around building those digital capabilities. We know that our patients, our physicians, and even our payers are looking at ways that we can use technology to advance better outcomes. So digital health will change the way patients interact with healthcare going forward. So we all have a responsibility within healthcare to really look for these opportunities, as I mentioned, and collaborate to drive those solutions. So as I close, one of the things I will say is that it's very important that we all kind of look at all three of those items, kind of those three pillars, those three concepts to bring digital health together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So you basically answered the question here.
Okay.
Can we speed up development by bringing small and startups and health and pharma together? And you said yes, that speeds up development. Do you know that for a fact from experience in the fintech sector, or do you know it?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we saw when there is this mutual goal, and you have capabilities that may not be yours. So within a larger corporation, you may not have some core capabilities. You have several decisions to make. Do I buy it? Do I purchase a organization that's going to come in and do this for me? Do I build it myself, go out, start recruiting, building those expertise, or in partnership? One of the things that I've seen from my background is through partnership, you were able to move a lot faster because you're bringing in those expertise maybe in technology that you may not want to have to truly build out within your organization. So it does help things move faster through the system.
Good. Thank you very much
Thank
again, and we'll come back to you in the panel discussion as well.
Thank you.
So the next speaker is the third company, big pharma or big company, not pharma in this case, but SAS, and Niels Grønning, who is the senior industry advisor of SAS in Copenhagen, and you are going to speak on the topic digital transformation on life sciences, leading data-driven change. Please, the floor is yours, and the next 9 minutes. A warm hand.
So good morning, everybody. So I represent SAS. SAS is the largest privately owned software company in the world. We have been working in analytics for the past 40 years. We're market leading in artificial intelligence, analytics, data management, and you could say all business cases related to gathering information or intelligence from data. So it's my privilege today to be speaking to you in the area of digital health. So I have approximately 10 minutes to cover that topic. So I'll do my best to take you through our thinking in this area, and also our visionary approach to engaging with biotech, pharma, and healthcare, the healthcare industry in this segment. So I have 2 kids, 4 and 6. So obviously I use a lot of time cleaning up from them, making sure all the toys are in the right boxes and so on. And the other day when I was cleaning up, I found something which I thought was really befitting to include in this presentation. So some of you might recognize this. This is a piece of paper that you get whenever you get a vaccination, at least in Denmark. I don't know if it's the same across the globe. And I actually brought it with me here today, so you can have a look at it later on. But basically, this is also to sometimes set the expectations. What is the baseline we're working from in healthcare? And obviously, there's been a lot of advancements in healthcare, but when I was a lot younger, when I went to the doctor, this was basically how he filled out the vaccinations I had gotten. And if we open the pamphlet, sure enough, you'll see that there's some dates, there's some names of the particular inoculation I had gotten, also how many doses, and the physician who had to perform the procedure. Obviously, this is a non-standardized form. Some people use a stamp, some people write in hand. It's very non-harmonized. This is not something you could feed to a machine and it would easily be able to interpret what is this data actually about. So this is sometimes the baseline we're working from when engaging in healthcare, engaging with life science companies. Obviously, this has gotten a lot better the past years, but we sometimes need to rethink what is the outcome or the starting point we're working in this field. So to get you a little bit engaged, I was going to include my kind of healthcare story. And the healthcare story I'm presenting to you might be similar to what you're experiencing in your countries, or it might not. There are definitely overlaps between regional ways of handling healthcare. From my personal point of view, a lot of the healthcare interactions I have are largely, you could say, fragmented in a sense that I go to the doctor whenever I have a particular need for that. And usually the data or the information in this case that's gathered is in paper form. Sometimes it's electronic. In Denmark from 2015 and onwards, we're capturing all vaccinations electronically. So there are definitely advancements in this area. But it's a very linear way of looking at healthcare, and it's a linear way of looking at how you handle information, how you collect information, and how you manage it. And it's sometimes structured in paper, sometimes it's structured in what we would in SAS would call structured. So it could be databases or other digitized channels. But to a large extent, this is what the healthcare looks like in a large part of the world beyond the ICH countries. So this fragmented view of the patient is obviously something that digital health to some extent would like to alleviate. So what is digital health in that sense? If you look at it from a perspective where we're collecting disparate data across or information across the patient's life cycle, what we really want to go from is from disparate data to connected health, to connected view of the patient, and being able to backtrack throughout the disease history of a particular patient to improve the overall picture and data of how we perceive a particular individual. This to me is basically a lot of the driving factor around patient centricity, about putting the patient in whatever we do. And from SAS, when we look at this, our view of healthcare is also bridging at our experience working from the financial industry, working from all other industries. Obviously, there's the caveat in healthcare and pharma that you have very tight regulations on data privacy, on what you may and may not collect. We have the General Data Protection Regulation coming out in Europe next year in May. There's a lot of changes in this area also, which we need to navigate in order to successfully deliver all these great promises that we want to give to the patients. So we want to go from a understanding of the patient from a HCP interaction type of way to understanding the entire life cycle and the entire disease history of a particular individual. So we want to move the arrow around to get a better understanding of the disease history from across the board, from across all the interactions you have to the healthcare sector, and also to the interactions you may or might not have with the pharmaceutical industry. So we're very much focused on looking at harmonized data, and this is to a large extent the complexity of this. But we're very much also focused at how can we gather data from beyond the regular interactions you have with your healthcare provider. So enabling the possibility to not only push the information from patients, but actually pulling also information, so we have this bidirectional information flow. This could help dose adjustment, dietary suggestions, replenishment of drugs, and also involvement or recruitment of patients in clinical trials. So basically, we want to go from reactive to proactive healthcare. And some of you might know these standards. We're at a life sciences conference, and a lot of you represent that sector. And there are a number of standards in this area. Unfortunately, a lot of them are not harmonized across the board. So this is the complexity we're working with when we're talking about digital health at a very, you could say, rudimentary stage. So the data management platforms that will be essential for this are crucial to collectively collaborate on. Building analytics on top to support a number of these use cases: disease progression, patient enrollment, adherence, value-based pricing, real-world evidence. A lot of these terms you hear flying around. But at the end of the day, you need to have a consensus around the standardization, the regulation, and the technology choices you take in order to engage in a digital health environment. So I will leave you with this question, which you can ponder on throughout the conference. So the big question for us is, how do we adopt and exploit digital health in a society where technology no longer is the boundary? And this is, from my point of view, where we really need the collaboration from startups, from the healthcare sector, from the life sciences sector. So technology we can only take it that far, but we need the collaborative efforts from a lot of different stakeholders in order to successfully succeed in this area. And you can say, despite what other three-letter software companies claim, we can't cure cancer with data. That's a simple fact. We can use data, but we can't cure cancer with data. So I hope you have a very nice conference, and I look forward to engaging with you after this session. You're more than welcome to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Niels. And I will let you sit down immediately so we can move forward and pick up some more questions for you in the panel later. Eager to hear how we actually can exploit and adopt digital health and see that as a challenge. Thank you very much. So next speaker is one of the two startups present here today. And we start off with Lytix, Mattias Paulsson, who will tell us a bit about, well, of course, what Lytix are and what experiences you have with working with bigger organizations.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you.
And now we're in for three 5-minute presentations. So a bit pick up speed here.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to speak here today. It's an honor to see so many people here. So my name is Mattias Paulsson. I'm from Lytix. We work with predictive healthcare, and we're specialized in cardiovascular diseases. So our core technology is really interpreting the data for those patients. We're based here in Malmö, so it's extra fun that the Nordic Life Science Days has made its way here. Great. So what is Lytix? Well, we were founded in 2011. We had our first employees in 2013. We're spun off from another artificial intelligence company. So we have a background in retail, telecom, and IoT. And we were figuring out at that time, how can we leverage our core competence in making churn predictions for telephone companies and selecting, patient groups for coupons and so forth. How can we leverage that knowledge into healthcare? So that was really the basis for the company. And we started doing some pilots, and soon enough we found our niche, which I'm going to talk about. So our core technology is within machine learning. We use mostly evolutionary principles, but we're kind of all round using that. And we do have solutions for patients with cardiovascular diseases. Our primary focus is within dialysis. I will tell you a little bit about a case we have there. We also are advisors to governments in the Nordics, in Europe, and the rest of the world as well, in this field that we operate. And we are focused on life science. So we're spun out from another AI company with focus on the other areas. Great. So why did we decide to focus on end-stage renal disease? Well, we sort of turned the tables a little bit on the technology. So instead of just looking at what can we do with our technology, which is of course a foundation for success, we also wanted to find an area where we could actually do an implementation and we could get a sort of fast traction for our results. And diabetes or dialysis really had most of what we were looking for. So 1 out of 10 adults have chronic kidney disease, which is a precursor to end-stage renal disease. And delaying end-stage renal disease means a huge increase in quality of life. So that's one interesting piece of work. Also, end-stage renal disease by itself is a market of $30 billion a year in the US alone. And the hospitalization, they burden society tremendously. The average cost of a dialysis patient is close to $90,000. So if we can save a lot of that money, it brings more healthcare for more people. So it's well worth the cost of what we're doing. Also, there is the prospective payment system in the US, which means that unlike here in Sweden and Denmark and Norway and Nordics, where we have the new public management they sort of bundle the fees together. So basically you get $239 for a dialysis treatment, no matter how much it costs the provider of that treatment. So that sort of puts a little bit of financial pressure on the clinics. And then also we found that in dialysis we have great data flow. These patients come in 3 times a week, so we have a steady flow of data that we could work with.
1 minute.
1 minute. I'm going to be fast. So we started a collaboration with 2 other corporations. One is CDC, which is one of the largest dialysis organization, one of the 10 largest dialysis organizations in the US, and Visonex, which is an EHR provider. And together with them, we got access to all the data, and we could input our solutions into the workflow of the nurse care managers in coordinating the care for the patients. So we're now running a 12-month trial, clinical trial with these organizations, and we're seeing some promising results in that we can lower the hospitalization rate by actually knowing which patients are going to be hospitalized. So that's the collaboration, and as you touched on Anthony, that we can actually collaborate together and get more results. Is it working? Yes. So our experience is that if the context is right, which has been for us with Visonex and with CDC, then it will find a way. And we also found that the principle of dating has been very useful for us. We've reached out to these organizations kind of a long time ago, and over time we built trust and confidence in that what we're doing was the right thing to do. And also for us, we get access to patient data, and we get key technologies for data capture with our partners, whereas they can be on the front and the cutting edge of technology and leverage more to their patients and their stakeholders. So for us, it's been about increasing the reach and the capacity, and I think it can help big corporations to stay ahead of the game. Well, thank you so much for my 5 minutes of fame. And
Thank you very much, Matthias.
I will be here for questions. Thank you.
Apologize for the tight schedule, but thank you very much. What would you say are the biggest obstacles you've met when collaborating with large corporations in these partnerships?
Well, I think it's been the pedagogics of reaching out what we actually do and explaining it. It's been a little bit, we're untraditional, so it's
Okay.
there's always the curiosity, but sometimes it takes time.
Takes time.
Yeah,
Okay.
it takes time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. The next speaker is Philip Seberg from Koala Life, based in Stockholm, who actually made it in the storm, landed here safe and sound, not this morning actually, but yesterday. So, but still, very welcome, and the next
you.
5 minutes are yours.
All right. Do we have the slides? Yeah. Okay, so I'm based in Stockholm, where the head office is, but all the development was done in Skåne, all the production is done in Malmö, the core development of our algorithms is in Lund, so it's a super Skåne-driven company, but based in Stockholm. So we're into digital health, we're into saving the heart, and using the power of the individual for that. So basically the 5 drivers behind our business is the heart kills us. So half of you in here are going to die in a heart disease. It doesn't matter if you had granola for breakfast, this is what happens. And one of the big drivers is atrial fibrillation. It hits about 33 million people in the US, in the world right now. And there's another about 33 million of us who don't know that we have it. So it's about early detection and finding things. The second driver is waiting for a specialist. So if you're in Skåne, for example, if you go to your primary care doctor and you feel a palpitation in your heart, it's going to take 6 months here in Skåne before you actually see the specialist. And then you see the specialist, they're in an investigation, and once after that, you get an envelope back saying you're fine. So it's just absolutely horrendous how it works. The third driver is digitization of care. It's something that's really happening. Primary caregivers are struggling for getting better solutions. They need to make more money, so things are happening here. And the fourth driver is really that the Swedish government has said, let's be best in the world. So they put up an agenda to say, let's make Sweden the leading driver of e-health in the world. And the fifth driver is basically the consumer power. It's really happening, and it's the consumer driving all this change. So what we've developed is something called the Koala Heart Monitoring System. It's basically a medical device system intended for consumers or users at home. It's a hardware, software, cloud-based system that makes it possible for anyone to analyze and check their heart anytime, anywhere. It's based on over 10 years of R&D in Sweden, and our first commercialization partner is the Lloyd's Pharmacy Group, which is one of Europe's largest pharmacy retailers. And basically, just to give a glimpse what it is. So it's a small little device that you keep in your pocket or in your handbag. And whenever you feel like it, you basically just hold it to your chest for 30 seconds. And what you can see up here is the integrated ECG electrodes. So it captures your ECG and your heart sound. And then this is sent through your phone up into the cloud where it's analyzed in real time with super smart AI algorithms to really understand your heart and see what the problem is, or if you're just fine. And if the system finds something, we built an ecosystem. So basically, you can simply, within 3 minutes, contact an integrated caregiver that we built up. So if the system detects some kind of an abnormality, we look at 11 different pathologies. You can automatically talk to them. They can go into your system. They can talk, answer your questions, and they're like a pre-triage of helping to offload the healthcare system and alleviate your worries. So what they do is that they log into our web-based, cloud-based system, which is a portal where all the data is generated and it's easy to access. As a next step, so we started by targeting the consumers and using them as a force to get healthcare providers to start moving. So we did that. So we launched our first product 7 months ago, and now we're just targeting, as a second step, the healthcare market. And it really works because all the consumers are talking to their doctors. The doctors call us and say, hey, we want this as well. So this is the Koala Pro, which is enabling digital health and cardiac assessments. So instead of waiting for 6 months, you go to your primary care doctor, you bring the Koala home, you borrow it for a week, and then once you're done, you've done a very quick, smart digital cardiac assessment.
1 minute.
Good. Okay, so we've already up and running. We've got lots of customers looking very good. If you look at some of the data, in the few months we've been around on the market, we've now analyzed about 1.4 million heartbeats. We have about 100 Swedish clinicians in the systems, and up to date today, I think we've done about 40,000 ECGs measurements. So it's really moving. The power of consumer is moving fast. So I'll skip this one with 1v1. Okay, so what's in it for Big Pharma? I think what we can do as small innovation companies is really move with hyper speed. I have another foot sharing a cardiac pharma drug company, and it's just, terribly slow. This is so fast to market. So we can help to gain access, and the sales reps that are working hard to get access to the doctors to sell drugs, this is a door opener. So that's what we're talking to the pharma companies. We can help. This can be used to individualize therapy. The customer, the individual can know when to take the drug. This can be used to maximize compliance and adherence to make sure you actually eat the drug. And it's a wonderful way of creating data for future research. All right, so just to wrap up, so this is us. Half of my team comes from St. Jude Medical within pacemaker development. Fantastic board and a very heavy investor group of Swedes in the life science sector.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Philip. Thank you for speeding up. So you're offering hyperspeed to
Yes.
Big Pharma.
Yes.
How do they receive this?
Call us and we'll make it happen. It's just, if you know how to do it, just make it happen.
But how is it received?
I think it's received extremely well.
Yeah.
The challenge is, because we're working with some of the big pharma companies, it's just a challenge of being small and big and making them believe that we actually follow all the rules and regulations.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So trust and
Trust is
credibility
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
a challenge for you working with the big ones then.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your swift presentation. Last but not least, the intermediate project, Health Tech Nordic, hosted and led by Marianne Larsson, Director of Innovation at Innovation Skåne and the project manager of Health Tech Nordic. Connecting the dots in health tech. 5 minutes for you.
Thank you. Do I get 5 minutes? Great. Hi,
Yes.
everyone. So, there's back. We're connecting the dots. So I've got some partners here. I can see you in the room. Please rise. It's Oslo, Norway, Health Tech, Cobis, Innovation, Skåne, Invest in Skåne, and we've got Medeon here as well. I'll get back to them later. We're connecting startups. Startups are at the center, connecting the dots with technology, industry, experts, regulatory navigation, data, interoperability, etc., to speed up the paradigm shift. We're already in the paradigm shift, and we talk about the democratization of health. This is happening right now. It will provide earlier diagnosis, better treatment, wider prevention, fewer emergency room events, etc. And it will be affordable to people across the globe. It's a market of $350 billion in 2020. That's 1 million jobs, actually. You've seen Koala Life already. You understand the logics. I'm behind the line. To add on that is, for instance, cross-technology with LifePod, where you can see the doctor's view. If you use a very intelligent algorithm, you can sort thousands of patients into those that actually need your support right now, as opposed to today, when you get a calendar invitation from your cardiologist. Every 6 months, you meet with your doctor for 15 minutes. Maybe you need it right there and then. That's luck. Reproductive health. Numerous of Nordic companies actually provide solutions right now to the world. Thanks to Trice Imaging and GE Healthcare, ultrasound can be made in wherever place on Earth, and data could be transferred to whoever expert in the world immediately. These are contraceptives, natural cycles on top. It was actually approved as a contraceptive better than the pill by the FDA a couple of months ago, I think. And that's another one using saliva, moon fertility. Digital treatment. So treatment comes in many forms. This is one of them. It's an evidence-based arthritis school that reduces the need for medication and reduces the need for surgery. It's now digitalized and it works even better. Another example is KBT treatment of insomnia. It could be depression and other. There are numerous of these out there right now, proving better results. So cognitive behavioral therapy in a digital way. Better results, a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient. Prevention of falls, using connectivity, measuring with sensors, elderly people's muscular activity, balance, etc., predicting falls 2 to 4 weeks ahead of a fall. These are just a few examples. This is the first company that I met in my world that digitalized something in life science. The guys originally come from the mobile industry, but they've actually taken the whole clinical trial process and digitalized it. It makes clinical trials a lot faster, recruiting patients a lot faster, higher quality, and considerably lower workload. So in the Nordics, we got at least 100 startups that are already into the paradigm shift. We're connecting them with industry like the mobile industry, Ericsson, Sony, Huawei, the medtech industry, Baxter and others, Philips, pharma industry, Progenics, AbbVie perhaps, or perhaps Bristol Myers Squibb. So we're hoping to get in relations with pharma industry more of those as well. And these are the partners, and we're a growing team. We also work actually with H2 in Stockholm and others, but across the Nordics. And so welcome to join this paradigm shift for earlier diagnosis, better treatment, fewer ER events. Very welcome. I'll be here sometime after. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. So now we know there is a market for digital health as well, obviously, and for democratization of health.
Yes.
Indeed. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so, well, actually, I'll sit down now. We do have a few minutes left for a panel discussion, and I will apologize to you in advance because we will be a bit late out of the session, starting a bit late as well. So my first question is basically, since we've already established the fact that there is a point for big companies and small companies to work together to speed up digitalization, how can this happen faster? So I would like to ask the big companies first, what should the small companies, the startups, do to better promote collaboration between the big and the small? Would you care to elaborate on that, Gia?
I'm from Bristol Myers Squibb, and we have a number of
Yes.
We have a number of partnerships that really helps our internal innovation as well as complements our internal capabilities. So we treat business development and partnerships as a very integral part of our overall corporate strategy. So
what do they do? What do the startups that are successful in working with you? What do they do well?
Absolutely. So we, first of all, startups are the successful ones that they have very good funding. They really understand the overall landscape of the market and what companies are looking for, and also really be crystal in their value proposition. So one thing that you can really promote the partnership and then in the deal making process is initial aggressive reach out to pharma companies. And right now, I have to say, for digital health, it's a new territory for business development for pharma companies. So oftentimes, and then especially in BMS, we don't have a set organization that goes out and reach out to digital health. So we really count on people like you and then people like who attend conferences here to tell us what they are, what they do. And then I think, just that information sharing is a great first step. And secondly, I think it's, like I said, it's understand the value proposition for pharma, understand the regulatory environment that we work in. So obviously, mobile health or mobile IT is very different from pharma. So how do we integrate the regulatory environment and requirements into the products that the biotech or the health tech companies offer? So then thirdly, just to wrap up, I think it's really the flexibility that how we can work together. BMS is very flexible in terms of our approach in deal making, but at the same time, we would like to see that reciprocal flexibility so that we can truly build a win-win partnership.
Okay, thank you. Anthony, you have any experiences in the health tech or digital health arena on this question?
I would say it mirrors very much the same. I would say if a startup or a health tech organization is wanting to partner with a larger organization, whether it be a healthcare system or pharma itself or whatever it may be, they really need to understand, to the point that you were making, what the goals are. There has to be a mutual agreement or a mutual goal that has to be solved. And when those things come together, that's when you can see the right pieces. You're going to deliver something for the patient or deliver something for the company or for the HCPs or the other groups. But basically, it's really around kind of how you come together at that mutual piece. I would say that was critical.
Okay. And with you, Nils, from the data perspective, what do you see there? Do you work a lot with small startups from SaaS?
I think it's one of the things where you could say a software company is very much reliant on smaller companies to use our platform and our tools, because we are very much dependent on the ability for smaller startups to, in this case, program or develop in our tools to build solutions. That is the key way for us also to expand our, you could say, market. I think to a large extent what we would do would be more working in the area of what we would call recombinant innovation. So we would maybe work with a company that has some kind of mobile device or whatever, and then we would supplement it with our technology to get that kind of value add in the package. Mm-hmm. You could say in technology there's a large surge of mergers and acquisitions, in particular bigger companies buying smaller companies. And we are not as much engaged in that. We would rather collaborate and build you could say a common platform which draws on each other's strengths rather than just scavenging on smaller startups.
So the answer is simple, really. Use our platform.
Yeah.
That's a good way to behave, to collaborate with you guys.
Absolutely.
So moving to the startups then, Matthias, what would you say, how could the big companies behave in a different way to better promote collaboration between the two of you?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about trust, because in the process, when you work with a startup and a big company, it's sort of the startup comes into the scene with an idea how to change something, whereas the oftentimes the big companies stand for tradition and what's already being done. So I think trust is very important, and you have a mutual commitment to the cause, because there's going to be some tension between the new and the old, and I find it very difficult myself being a startup, part of a startup, because what are we going to change and what are we going to keep? When is it time for re-engineering and when is it time for just evolution? And that's a little bit of a negotiation and mutual understanding of those that really understands the business the most, which are the big companies that have the history.
So how to establish trust what are good ways to establish trust then?
I think it is to make an early contact when you have an idea and then have an ongoing dialogue. And what I do is I say, okay, we plan to do this. And then I come back and said, we just did this. And then I come back again and I say, we plan to do this with you. And never take no for an answer and just keep coming back.
So persistence, and not taking no for an answer is basically a good way to build trust in the long run.
Yeah, I think
Or
so.
you've been successful in this?
Well, somewhat, yeah.
Do you share this experience, Philip?
I think so.
What a life.
Yeah, good conclusion. I think we're asking for pharma companies to take the time to listen to us. We're not necessarily there always to look for money. We want to build business together, and I think it's so fascinating. It's really the change is happening right now, and if you're not really on the train, you're gonna change this. I mean, I want to be able to look back at my grandkids and say we were part of the transformation from analog pills to really digitally health, and that's happening now. And if you're not on it, it's going to be another Kodak happening. So, yeah, and we're here to help.
Of course.
Yep.
Marianne, what do you see hosting 100 or being sort of the spokesperson for 100 Nordic startups? Is this a problem or is this a challenge to get in the Nordics as it is on the international arena, or is it specifically for the Nordics that you see this challenge between large and small companies working together?
Large and small is always a problem. I mean, not until you're Apple or Google or have that kind of size, you will get the trust. So if you're a small startup, people tend to talk about small as small. You know, they have to knock on the door. So the people in the big organizations, and that could be any big organization like government-controlled healthcare systems or pharma industry or telecom industry or whatever, big organizations, there are often individuals in that organizations that tend to think outside the box. You represent such a person, and you too, of course, all of you. If you have the mandate to actually do something about the company strategy, then it's possible to meet and have some mutual trust on the change. And it's definitely, absolutely so important to have a mutual goal. And I would suggest thinking about the patient or the individual, not in terms of medicine, but in terms of curing or in terms of quality of life. And then, you know, change business models, because these solutions will cannibalize on the traditional revenue streams for pharma industry, unless, you know, population is growing in volumes, and you will still maintain your revenue streams, but we will lower the need for medication per individual through other solutions.
So there's a built-in dilemma, of course, when you come as a technology disruptor or market disruptor suggesting a collaboration. You're actually suggesting to cannibalize for the large companies or established companies to cannibalize on themselves.
And only those companies that actually wants to join in and to see what will happen. We know something will happen. We're a large tanker, but we need to be there when it happens in order to know our new business models for the future. That's the approach you need to have, I think.
And so the question is turned right back to AbbVie and BMS and SAS. Do you have this insight on the top management level that you will need to reinvent yourself sometime in the future? And are you working with this as a strategic question?
Yeah. You know, I'm happy to take a first step. I think, you know, BMS is a great example of transformation. So in the last decade, we have transformed ourselves from a diversified healthcare company with beauty products, infant formula, medical imaging, to a company that is very focused on developing medicine, innovative medicines to treat unmet diseases with unmet medical needs. And that transformation, really took a lot of determination and it took a lot of courage from our top management. And looking forward, we are very, very cognizant of the breakthrough technologies that could be disruptive to our current business model, and we welcome those opportunities. The reason that we are now putting digital health as one of our strategic priorities is we're looking for ways to leveraging digital technology to help us enhance our data and analytical capabilities to help us build a biomarker strategy so that we can identify the right patients for the right treatment. And we're using a lot of the data that are generated from patients through clinical trials to help us unravel the disease biology. So all of that, I think our goal is whatever it takes to help us provide a cure or provide meaningful clinical benefits to patients, and that's what we do. So we are not so worried about what if this cannibalizes our current market, but rather we have a very long-term view, and then our goal is to deliver medicine, and then if that takes whatever technology that can help us deliver that goal and to serve our patients, we will be there.
Good, good. Sas, what do you say? How do you see this? Do you have this insight on the top levels in your strategies?
I think you could say from our point of view, we are a little bit unique being privately owned, so we're probably not comparable to a lot of the other technology companies out there. But I think actually in this sense, it gives us strategic benefit that we do have a more lean approach to the management decision, so that we don't have that many, you could say, shareholder impact in terms of the decisions made. So actually the top down, being able to execute in a more agile fashion is a lot smoother in our organization. And I think actually it does allow us to work a lot more seamlessly with some of these smaller companies, because from the top down there is a genuine interest and need to collaborate in this area, which is also why all of the tools that are being developed now are, you could say, able to execute a lot of these open source coding languages, simply because we need a larger community to work with SaaS. We don't need to box ourselves in. So definitely, I think we're on the right path, but I guess none of us probably have the the right answer to that question.
And obviously, Abby has already shown that you have this on the agenda. Just curious, is maybe the topic not about being big and small and having big and small collaborating, but fast and slow? Someone mentioned the time aspect. It takes time. So time is usually for startups in the time frame of months, whereas a decision could be years in the large company sphere, and for good reasons. But these differences in time constant actually makes it more difficult. So is it perhaps not an issue of being big and small? Is it more an issue of being fast or slow? And how can you be faster or slower? How can you develop in this aspect instead? And I'm leaving that question to anyone who wants to grab it.
I guess I can take that one.
Please.
At AbbVie, we really are looking to speed up the entire process. So if you think about creating a molecule from its infancy all the way through many, many, many years, there's things that you can do from a technology point of view. We saw some examples just now in some of these presentations, how you can speed up, partner, do clinical trials differently, and really thinking about those components. Once it goes into commercialization and moving into the market, then how do we connect with our patients? And that's where right now there's a lot of digital health is focused on that piece. But from the whole journey, if we're looking at the whole journey from molecule to commercialization, there's great opportunities, and that has to be a vision from the top down. It can't be within each one of the different business units. It really has to be a vision, and that's what we're looking at within AbbVie, is how do we really approach the whole ecosystem from a digital point of view.
Marianne.
Yeah, so the pharma industry is doing invasive things that needs really regulatory aspects, and you could speed those up, but they still need to take some time.
Yes.
However, there's a lot of other things that you can do that is not harmful. And then you need to be navigating the regulatory system and not just simply go down the traditional route of 10 years and clinical trials and millions of dollars. You may think differently. You may actually provide the patients with tools. Like for instance, there's this, do you know IBS, irritable bowel syndrome? There's now an app supporting people with bubbly tummy. Instead of claiming that it's IBS app, it's bubbly tummy. And you enter your data, what you eat, what you drink, how you sleep, and how you feel. And you get data back. This is discoveries. It turns out every time you have a banana, it seems like you have a problem 6 hours later. That's a useful tool for the patient. So that startup will eventually gain millions of users. They've got other apps that have millions of users. If they gain millions of users, they will develop more products, more functionality. That's another way of approaching the change. You can do things without harming anyone.
Anyone else on the fast versus slow topic? Yes?
I think it's about just sense of urgency a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in negotiation phase with a big pharma company, and it's, all the discussions and the legal things, and they end up with the internal attorneys, and it takes 4 months. It takes me 22 minutes to draft, here's the agreement, and it takes 6 weeks to get something back. And I think everybody's working like crazy, but it's more if the management doesn't have the sense of urgency that this needs to happen, it's not going to happen. And my world has totally changed within these months. So that's why I'm just saying it's happening now, and top management needs to understand that.
Yeah.
We need to yes, sir.
Sorry, so I think speed is really a very unique quality for BMS, and as we approach going over through the last decade of transformation, we changed from a company with over 100,000 patients worldwide to a company with 25,000. So it's still a largeable scale, but we think our scale is uniquely positioned, and we purposefully established the scale of what we are today so that we can have speed and agility. And in terms of deal making, I understand within a company like a BMS and AbbVie, there are processes that facilitate decision making. So the processes, it doesn't always slow down the process, but it does add rigor and then and a robustness in the decision making. So that could be perceived from the outside as we're slowing down. But the fact is, so when I talk to companies, when we're in deal making, in negotiation, what we do is we help our partners understand our processes so that they understand we have the sense of urgency, but we also have to follow rigorous decision making processes because every day a company like BMS is inundated by thousands of decisions, big or small. Only processes can guarantee the certain desired outcome that's best for the company. So we all oftentimes make sure that our partners understand our process, but at the same time, we also try to speed up things. So we have acquired companies over a weekend because it was a competitive process that it is a must-have to us. So we fly, we put all the resources in, we fly the resources in, and we said, we can get this deal done over this weekend, and we did. So I think that sense of urgency definitely is instituted within BMS.
Cool. So closing with one quick question. How much will digitalization cut lead times, development lead times in life science in the next 10 years? Well, and starting with Marianne, what do you think?
Life science is very wide.
Okay, so narrow it down, please.
So at least half in all aspects, all areas.
At least half.
Yeah.
Is what you say. Okay, so half the development lead times.
Half the cost, half the lead times, double life quality.
Anthony, what's your
I would
forecast?
agree. So looking back at other industries that I've worked in, it's by going to a digital, really having a true digital plan, a true digital suite, you can cut lead times by half in a lot of cases. Some may require longer, but it typically has been, from my experience, around about 50%.
Philip?
Yeah, I probably agree as well. It's
Okay.
a tricky question, but
Yeah.
in general, a half. Yeah.
Matthias?
Yeah, I think half.
You're on half as well.
I'm on half as well. Yes.
We're on half, basically. What do you say? Niels, are you
I'm
more
probably a
bold?
little bit more conservative, but
Okay.
that's also, I guess, in particular, life sciences that very much depend on politicians and the politics regulations around this. And from my experience working in regulatory affairs, I know that at least the last years we've seen an increasing requirement in terms of amount of data you need to submit, the standardization requirements and so on. So I agree, half is probably doable, but that requires that the governments follow suit in an effort to also make the working environment for the life sciences industry a lot more, you could say, smooth or agile.
That's a fair point. Thank you. And Jie and Annika?
My view is really, I think it depends because as we develop cancer drugs, oftentimes we have to demonstrate the survival benefits. Just an example, to establish the survival benefits, ideally, actually, we run longer. So that means the trial will run longer. That means our patients are living longer. They're having, they have better quality of life. So in that situation, I wouldn't say digital health will necessarily cut down our drug development time. However, digital health will help us in faster recruitment, in helping us generating more data so that we can better understand the biology of our drug and how it works. But ultimately, I think our goal is to extend the survival benefits for our cancer patients, and that is, however we can achieve that, we will do it.
Thank you very much. Do you have a last comment on BMS?
Seems like everybody has already said everything. But I think it's important to understand that there is a need of speed, and we don't want to. We want to have this speed also, of course, to make the best patient outcome. But as you said, we need to be in line with the regulations. So we.
Well, I'm happy that most of you actually said that it would cut lead times. It was a leading question, but you could have said that it will increase lead times, actually, because things turn much more complicated with digital stuff. But I'm very happy to hear that there's good prospect and good markets for digitalization in healthcare. Thank you very much, Marianne Larsson, Anthony Sigrist, Philip Seberg, Matthias Paulsson, Nils Gröning, Jie De Lia, and Annika Holmberg for sharing your experiences and for spending time with us. And thank you for today.
Thank you.
Apologies for pulling over.